Guys, today's driver video is driven, get it, by stats. I'm going to be using the ShotScope coaching dashboard, and I'm going to be using a few of my students as guinea pigs to show you their stats and how we can improve their driver distances, not by changing the whole golf swing or trying to add speed, but by being more efficient. So stay tuned, there's lots of gold in this one. I encourage all of my students to keep their stats, because whether you're a 28 handicapper or a scratch golfer, stats will help you understand exactly where your strengths and weaknesses lie within your game. And today's focus is all about the driver, because probably the most common question I get asked is, can I get more speed? Can I get more distance? Or they're under the impression that if they get an extra 10 or 15 yards off the tee, they're going to score better. Now, what we do see on the PGA Tour as well is that generally, this is a very generalized comment I'm going to make now, but the longer golfers are over time a little bit more successful than the ones that hit the ball shorter, because they are able to approach the green with a shorter iron into, or they're able to kind of chip and pitch onto a green rather than a full shot. So it does generally make the game a little bit easier because you're making the golf course shorter. What we've seen and what we see from these stats that I'm going to be popping up all over your screen now is that a lot of my students can hit the ball a decent distance. However, their average distance is quite low in comparison to their longest. Now, I'm certainly not saying that the longest distance should happen more often, but what the stats are telling us is that the efficiency of the distance is a very, very variable. So whether you carve one off with a slice or you get that low hook, that's going to lose you distance. But that's also saying, well, you're inconsistent with the quality of your ball striking. Even if you hit the ball quite straight and you feel like, oh, actually, I've got some TrackMan stats for you now. My swing speed is 100 miles per hour, but the ball's only going 200 yards. We can look at the efficiency of your golf swing rather than saying you need to swing it at 110 miles an hour. Because as a general rule of thumb, and just digressing a little bit, 100 mile an hour golf swing should be able to hit the ball around about 250 to 265, let's say. So if you're not getting out to that distance, you're not efficient in your golf swing. You've got the speed, you've got the power, you just do not have the efficiency. That goes to be, that's the same to be said for someone that swings it at 70 miles an hour or 120 miles an hour. Efficiency with the driver is always more difficult. Okay, for my golf swing, for my swing speed, I hit the ball with a 7-iron pretty much the distance that my swing speed should allow. I hit the ball around about 175 and I've got approximately 94 miles an hour club head speed with a 7-iron. So those numbers correlate quite nicely. Now with this, I swing the club at around about 112 miles an hour, but my average distance doesn't quite correlate, okay? And that's because I'm not fully efficient, or I'm not as efficient. But to be honest, within my own game, I'm efficient enough that I get the ball far enough down there. So I'm going to be giving you 5 mega tips to make you more efficient, so that if you do start keeping stats, you're able to look at the stats and go, okay, I'm getting more distance, and that is because I've not changed my speed. I'm not trying to hit the ball faster or harder, but you're hitting the ball better. Tip number 1 is all about tee height. Very simple. How high should you tee it up? Now, the majority of golfers, we talk about hitting up on the ball gives you the most efficient ball striking because you're reducing your spin. We don't want lots of spin on a driver. If you think about chipping and pitching, we often say hit down on the ball to create backspin to get the ball landing soft. It's the opposite for this one. That's why we don't want to hit down on the ball. We actually want to hit up. However, there is a slight disclaimer on that comment. If your swing speed is a little bit on the slow side, then actually hitting down on the ball can give you that little bit of extra spin that gets the ball airborne. So very, very important you know your swing speeds, and then we can figure out whether you need to hit up or down on the ball. It's rare that hitting down on the ball is such a positive, but it is in some cases. That's why I wanted to get it in there. You've got the likes of Brooks Koepka. He hits down on the golf ball and he hits the ball miles. So it's very, very independent to the golfer generally. But I'm going to do this as a very generalized first tip. So ball needs to go approximately half the way over the top of the driver head. So I've got half of the golf ball peeking over the top of the driver, okay? What I want to encourage now is my golf club head to land approximately where that golf ball is. So we have a low point in the golf swing that lands before the golf ball. So when it gets to the ball, it starts to work its way up, okay? I see a lot of golfers as they start to move into the ball, their upper body moves towards the target and the club then lands later and its low point is either at the golf ball or after the golf ball, and that's what makes you hit down and makes you spin the ball up into the air. And we want to get away from that, folks. We don't really, like I said before, generally that is not what we want to do for golfers. So the best way I look at this is I would set up as if it's almost like a 7-iron. So I've got my feet together, I've got the club just in behind the golf ball there. I'm going to put my lead foot just to the side of the ball and my trail foot nice and wide. And you notice how I've got my driver now right in the middle of my stance, because that, remember, is where I want to land the club. It's like what I want to do with a 7-iron as well. It's exactly what I do with a 7-iron. The difference here is the ball's further forward. This is a great drill for getting that sensation of hitting up on the ball by starting with your driver 1 or 2 inches behind the golf ball, because your feeling now is that your head and your golf club head are aligned, okay? And what you want to try and feel is as you hit the golf ball, your head stays where the golf club and where it started, but your club head as it strikes the ball obviously will be more further forwards, therefore enabling you to hit up onto the ball. So we're going to give tip number 1 a bash. And tip number 1 has popped out there with very little spin, and let me tell you that I've taken the tiger line and I'm just short of this par 4, whatever, I don't even know how far it is. Set number 2 is posture, okay? We're going to talk a bit more about setup. Tip number 1, we've talked about tee height and then a little bit of relativity in regards to setup from there. But I think one of the key things that gets overlooked, particularly on the driver, is the quality of posture. So what you could do, you could put the golf club into your belly button or into your belt, pop it across your nose. I know some people are going to say they got bigger derbies than me. It's maybe true, so maybe just rest it on your stomach there and try and keep the back nice and straight as you lean forward. All I'm trying to do here is basically stop you rounding your shoulders this way, okay? When you round the shoulders this way, what it does, it prevents a quality rotation with your shoulders around your spine angle, okay? So what we're going to try and feel is just that the upper body stays nice and straight as you tilt forwards, okay? So you've got a nice straight back. Distance from the golf ball here is generally, well, it will be further than your irons, but also the distance from the butt of the club and the grip to your body as well is also a little bit further. So obviously we're further away than the iron because the club's longer, that goes without saying. But with the irons, we tend to start with the hands more underneath the shoulders. With the driver, we'll just start with them pushed out. So I often say, get the trail hand under your nose, okay? So trail hand more under your nose, maybe even slightly further away. So we've got the arms ever so slightly stretched away from the body. So I've got a good posture. My width of stance is going to be wider than an iron. So if I've got my iron, I'm going to take an inch and an inch. The worst thing you could possibly do is go too wide, okay? Because now you're going to limit your rotation in your lower body. A little bit of trial and error here, because everyone watching this video now might range from, I don't know, 5 foot to 7 foot, okay? So you need to find your correct width of stance. So make sure that when you're doing this, you can rotate. So get your back nice and straight, tilt forward with your posture, and make sure you can get that rotation. Make sure your lower body is encouraged to turn 45 degrees away from the golf ball. Make sure your trail knee is encouraged to move back away from the golf ball, as is your trail hip, and your backside moving towards the target, okay? So get yourself a really good rotation. If I go too wide, I can't turn. If I go too narrow, I could probably turn too much. So find a width of stance that works for you. Posture is really key as well, because we want to try and make sure that the shoulders can rotate around the spine. If we can do that, we can create a consistent rotation towards the top of the backswing. So tip number one, tee height and ball position. Tip number two, posture and width of stance. They are two vital elements. And also, just to finish on tip two, because I always talk about this, the grip. The grip is the only thing that connects you to the golf club. I hate seeing too strong or too weak. I don't mind seeing strong and weak, but too strong and too weak is going to cause some really big issues in your swing. You may even have it under control right now, but that means you're having to manipulate another area of your body to prevent it going wrong. And it eventually generally does go wrong, and you can't figure it out. So I would always say, with the grip, get on top of it as soon as you can. You can practice it at home every single day of the week. If you're stuck in your office, sun is shining outside, you want to go and play a bit of golf, grab your pen, just grip your pen, okay? Because honestly, life-changing. Just gripping your pen in the office will start you on the road to a better grip. Tip three on being able to be more efficient in your driver, and this kind of goes all the way through the golf bag, and I personally think it's probably the most important area of the golf swing. And I say that with a pinch of salt, because maybe impact position is, but before we get there, we need to get there in the correct way, and the correct way is making sure that your takeaway is good. Too many golfers with this driver try and swing it right around the backside, because what they're trying to do is swing it from the inside, okay? I often see the more inside you go, the more outside you end up, okay? What I want to try and do, again, let's get back to something close to neutral. I don't mind seeing inside, I don't mind seeing outside. I hate seeing too much inside and too much outside. And what I mean by both of those is, that's my neutral. That's inside, that's outside. That's too much inside, that's too much outside, okay? Too much of something is going to cause us some issues. So what we're going to do, trail arm behind your back, lead arm nice and straight, okay, with a nice grip, and you're just going to turn your chest away from the target, and you're going to stop at waist height. Now what you're going to see is I've done hardly anything with my wrist, because that's the angle I started with. It doesn't start straight, there's always an angle. So as I take the club away, okay, I've got this angle in my wrist to shaft angle, left arm nice and straight. I'm just going to turn. What you'll notice, I'm turning my shoulders, my chest, and my right, and my trail hip is also rotating. And that's just bringing me back to the neutral position at waist height on the takeaway. Now, I often see golfers do the hands, and what we call that, they fan the club too much on the inside, or I see other golfers rotate too early and go too much on the inside as well. So try to control yourself, and the reason why we're doing it with one hand is because it gives you a better understanding and a better control, because you've got to really look after the club's pathway. When the right hand's on, when the trail hand's on there, the trail hand could be the one that pulls the club too much on the inside. The trail hand could also be the one that closes the face. The lead hand could also do both of those, but I think if you stop there, you'll be able to see what the lead hand's doing wrong. You'll be able to see where the club head is as well. So takeaway in this instance is absolutely vital. So this is a perfect little drill. And again, this can be done for every single club. You could even do this for your pitching. So I am covering a lot of bases in this video, and hopefully you're getting some absolute gold from it. Just remember, every Monday and Wednesday there's some golf tips that are going to help improve your game. On a Sunday we've got the Sunday Scramble with lots of special guests, and on a Friday I tackle local golf courses to see if I can break par. So lots and lots of content to come. So make sure you are subscribed, because why not? It's some pretty good stuff coming out. And it's a fear of rotation. Too many golfers are scared of turning. Believe it or not, too many golfers are scared of turning, particularly through the swing. Golf is about matching up, okay? So if I turn 45 degrees here, I want to turn 45 degrees here. If I turn 90 degrees here, I want to turn 90 degrees here. Never, ever cut your follow through short. It's one of the most common things that I see. Sometimes the follow through can be massively affected, deeply affected by the quality of your club path. So that does make a big difference. Of course it does. But if you do not follow through with the swing, you're generally hitting the ball. I often do say, if you swing it from out to in, then a lot of golfers don't really do that follow through. But if you swing out to in, so for a right-handed golfer, if I swing the club that way, which is out to in, it's effectively me swinging the club left. Learn to hit the club left. Learn to hit the golf ball left. If it slices to the right, not only have you got the path wrong, you've got the club face angle at impact wrong as well. So try and match up the golf swing the best you possibly can, okay? And that's a really key point as well. That's a free tip within this 5. So what we're gonna try and do, we swing up to the top of the backswing. As the club comes down, I want you to really concentrate on getting your chest and your hips left or to the side of the target. So for me as a right-handed golfer, I want to finish 45 degrees left of target. I do not want to finish pointing to the right of target. Okay, that's the worst place for me to be, because 2 things have happened. If my lower body hasn't rotated, then my upper body hasn't rotated. If both of those haven't rotated, I probably haven't controlled the club face very well at all. So making sure that you get a natural match up between the backswing and the downswing to get good rotation through the shot. And that is a nice little baby fade. Had I actually aimed it in the direction I wanted to go, I wouldn't have ended up in the trees, but it's fine. The match up on the way through was absolutely perfect. Going into tip number 5. Tip number 5 is an interesting and controversial one, because we're going to be talking about balance at the end of a golf shot. Do you need to finish with balance at the end of your driver? A lot of golfers tell me they fall over after they hit the shot. Biggest reason why you may fall over could be swing path. The most common one I see is golfers that swing it out to in end up falling that way. So if I'm a right-handed golfer that swings it to the left, I often overbalance my shoulders to the right and I step this way. That's not ideal, okay? So you want to try and make sure that this golf club's path is working as neutral as possible. And one of the great drills I've got for you, and this is a drill you've probably seen on the channel before, you can even do this with a driver, get your feet together, okay? Feet together controls the swing path and it helps you with balance like you would never believe, okay? So you get the chest and the shoulders rotating. We've got that posture from before, we've got the ball position from before, we've got the matchups now of the rotation back into that nice takeaway and the rotation into the follow through. You can still hold a nice follow through balanced position with your feet together, because you're going to rotate into your lead side and your trail side is going to follow with the foot still coming up. Great drill, even with a driver, and you can start to get it faster and faster. Go back. There, still got the balance on the way through, okay? Some people may struggle with balance just from general balance, okay? But this is a really good drill just to kind of help you get that sensation of encouraging that matchup we did in tip 4 and holding the correct balance on the way through. It also complements tip number 3 quite nicely, because tip 3 was about trying to keep your path on the takeaway nice and neutral. And if you've got a nice neutral start to the swing, you've got more chance of having a neutral ending to the swing. Add that with matchups in rotation and balance at the end of the golf swing, and hopefully all these 5 tips, again, you can get them nailed in a couple of range sessions and then start to see the efficiency of your ball striking go north, improve, get better. So don't worry about speed, don't worry about power. Use what you've got, get better at what you've already got, because efficiency for the majority of us, me included, as I said at the start of the video, is a very difficult thing to maintain. I hope this video has helped. Hopefully the stats have kind of reinforced a lot of the stuff that you may have been thinking. If you've never used a ShotScope device before, I would definitely recommend checking them out. You can then also add me as a coach and we can talk more in the future about how we can improve your game specifically and just make you an all-round better golfer. Guys, thank you for watching. I love it, I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.